Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. Now this time we'll be talking about a Arrow box set that was sent to me to review for you guys. And this is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. It's going to be quite a lengthy video. We're going to bust out all 4 reviews in this box set in one video. So I hope you guys stay tuned and listen to the entire video and listen to my thoughts about all 4 of these movies that are in this box set. And the box set is the second box set that Arrow has put out of this filmmaker, and it is Twisting the Knife, the 4 films of Claude Chabrol. Now, Chabrol is somebody that, you know, if you guys have listened to me and my time on the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror podcast, you'll know that, hands down, my favorite film country in the world is France. I mean, their films just speak to me. I love French cinema. And Chabrol is somebody that, you know, I've heard about when I was in film school. And he's had a really huge career. And he's somebody that, like I said, I've heard about when I was in film school, but I really never had the chance to really dig into his films. So when I saw that Arrow released this, I was like, oh, I definitely want to have the opportunity to watch some of these movies and talk to them about them with you guys. So I was very grateful that Arrow decided to send me this. Like I said, this is the second box set that Arrow has put out. They put out another one a couple months ago, I think at the beginning of the year, with some more of his movies. So I'm definitely going to have to be able to pick that up and check it out for you guys. But I figured, you know, we talk about all 4 of these movies, and then at the end, we'll wrap up my entire thoughts about what I think about him. So we're going to start out with this film from the year 2000, I think it's from 2003, called The Flower of Evil. It's a really interesting film. It's very French in the sense that it's very character heavy, very heavy dialogue, French New Wave kind of, a little bit French New Wave kind of cinema in this one, but very heavy dialogue, family dynamic kind of a film. So basically we follow this wealthy family in France. We follow a father and a mother and a son and his stepsister and their aunt. And they live in this huge mansion in France. And basically, you know, they're the pinnacle of an upper class family. And the mother is running for office, and the father owns this pharmacy, and he's doing some other shady things at this pharmacy. And, you know, the aunt is the old patriarch of the family, and she, you know, she seems all nice, but as we learn as the film goes on, she has a little bit of a darker and deeper past. And that's where the family dynamic really comes in. So like I said, the mother is running for office, and one day they get a pamphlet in the mail that starts spreading about the family's past. And we learn that in the past, the aunt's father, he was a Nazi sympathizer. And, oh, I love how to say that. And that the aunt basically was accused of murdering her father after they sent her brother to war, and her father did nothing to stop it. So the aunt is accused of murdering her father, and she basically gets acquitted. And this pamphlet talks about all the dirty past about that and things like that. So it really puts a nail and conflict within the family. And then basically it's it. It's just dealing with the conflict of this pamphlet and how it affects the family dynamic and the, you know, the politics race that's happening and how it affects that. And along the way, like I said, we learn more about how the father, he is a huge dirtbag. You got to watch this movie. It has, the climax of the film is definitely super interesting. I can kind of see it play out as the film goes on, but it's an interesting climax. It kind of wraps up the whole idea of this family and their dynamics. But besides that, it has some weird incest kind of stuff going on between the brother and the stepsister. Like I said, they're not really related, so, you know, there's nothing weird, super weird, you know, going on in my opinion. But, you know, it is kind of weird because they grew up together and now they're in love and they're getting it on and things like that. It's very weird film, but the French like to, you know, talk about that kind of stuff. So if you guys are into family dramas and heavy dialogue and character-based films, you're definitely going to like this. So, The Flower of Evil, on this disc itself, you got a high definition of Blu-ray, of course, from a brand new 4K restoration. You got a new commentary track by a film critic, and then a whole bunch of new appreciations about Claude Chabrol, as well as some archival interviews and things like that. So just on this one disc, you get a boatload of features. The transfer is pretty good on this. It's from 2003, so, you know, I would assume it was either shot on film or shot on video, on, you know, digitape, but I'm not entirely sure. But the transfer looks really good. Arrow did a good start with this one. So that's my thoughts on The Flower of Evil. We will come back and talk about the next film in this set. So I hope you guys stay tuned, and I shall talk to you guys in a minute. All right, I shall see you guys. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the next review in the Twisting the Knife box set. And this time around, this film that we'll be talking about came out in the year 2000. And, of course, directed by Claude Chabrol. And it is a film titled Nightcap. So, at the end of this film, you really start to see some common themes that Chabrol likes to play in his movies. After watching this and then The Flowers of Evil, you really start to see how he likes to make movies. Very slow, heavy dialogue, character-driven narratives. And I'm curious, as we watch the final two films, if the themes continue of having social commentary and family life talked about in his movies. Because these first two movies are very similar in tone and in themes. So this one, we follow Mika and Andre. Andre is a famous pianist, and Mika is she inherited a chocolate company from her uncle or her father. And Andre, you know, he's very obsessed with becoming the best pianist in the world, and Mika is kind of, you know, thrown off to the side, and that kind of develops some issues inside Mika's psyche as the film goes on, that Andre is so obsessed. He pays more attention to becoming a pianist than he does to Mika. And they live with their son, Gualame, that's how you pronounce it. And we learn that when he was born, that the wrong name tag was placed on his leg. So we meet this other character, what's her name? Jeanne. And Jeanne is she's a pianist too. And we learn that she had the other leg, other name tag on her leg in the hospital. So basically, we kind of figure out the fact that maybe Jeanne is actually Andre's daughter and Gualame is not his son, because of the mix-up that happened in the hospital when they were born. So, of course, Jeanne and Andre become quite close because of the fact that they are both pianists and they have common past history. And this becomes a huge problem in Mika and Andre's relationship, because he starts to not only pay more attention to the keyboard, but now pay more attention to Jeanne, who may be his daughter or may not be his daughter. We never really learn if this is true or not. But this ultimately causes Mika to do some very not nice things. And we learn more about Andre's past and what happened with his previous wife and things like that. It's a very interesting film. It's kind of similar to, like I said, the last movie that I talked about with the aunt having some darker secrets to her past. Mika definitely has some darker secrets to her past. And I actually enjoyed this film quite a bit more than I did the last film. I feel like the characters are a lot more interesting, and the overall tone of the movie is a little bit more darker than that last film. It ultimately leads to a pretty interesting climax. These two movies have similar climaxes as well. It kind of hits its peak, and then the movie kind of ends. And I guess that's okay, because that's kind of what life is. You know, it kind of has some exciting moments, but ultimately it just goes back to normal. So this is quite an interesting film. I recommend it for being shot in 2000. it looks quite good, and you start to notice other kind of camera movements that Chabrol likes to use throughout his movies. A lot of panning shots and things like that. He's a very interesting filmmaker. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't dive into his movies earlier because I love slow burn character pieces. So this film, brand new 4K restoration again, got 5.1 audio, and then we got a new commentary track from this similar film critic who was on the last film, and we got a closer look at Chabrol's later films through the lens of Nightcap. And we got some archive interviews with some of the actors and some behind-the-scene footage. So, a really interesting film. Like I said, if you guys are like family drama / thrillers, you definitely should check this one out as well. I recommend it. And I'm curious to check out this next film. It is titled The Color of Lies. So we shall be back in a little bit, and we shall talk about this film. So I shall see you guys soon. Alright, welcome back everybody for the halfway point in my review of the Twisting the Knife box set released by Arrow Films. And the third movie in the set came out in the year 1999. Of course, directed by Claude Chabrol. And it is a film titled The Color of Lies. So, kind of realized as I was watching these and reviewing these for you guys, I've kind of watched them in the opposite order of their release dates. I started with the most recent ones first, and getting to the older ones last. I guess I just went from left to right in the set instead of the other way around. So, The Color of Lies, like I said, from 1999. Once again, just like the first two, very, very heavy, character-driven narrative and film. It doesn't really have too much narrative about class in this one, but it still has just a slow burn, interesting character kind of narrative. So in this one, we follow Renee. Renee is a art teacher, and he teaches art on this small island where everybody knows each other, and everybody talks, and that's where the film really shines. I'll get into that in a minute. So one day, when these two characters were walking along in the middle of the woods, they're not important characters, they come across a dead body of a little girl, and this little girl ends up being one of Renee's art students. So, of course, the first suspect in this is Renee, because he was the last one to see her at his art class before she was found dead. So Renee is the first one, of course, to be accused, and since this is such a small island, rumors like to go around quite quickly and things like that, a lot of gossip and things along that. And along the way, we meet his wife Vivian, and Vivian is like a chiropractor kind of doctor. And the big shot on the island is Gerald, and he's like this author, and they kind of have a little bit of an affair going. He's a little bit of a prick, if I have to say. But, there's a little bit of an affair going, and, the downfall between all these rumors going around that Renee murdered this little girl and the torment that it has on their relationship. And that's basically about it. It's just about really interesting small town and how gossip could turn to wildfire very, very quickly and how it could affect people. And that's just basically about it. Just a really interesting film. I just love the talk about how things could just explode. I mean, I think we see that all the time even today in media, how rumors just spread around, and we live in such a big, rumors just spread around. I think if we were in such a small town like this, because this basically is like an island, if you're on a small town, just imagine how it must feel if something huge happens like a murder. It's very, very interesting. I was very into this movie. You could tell Chabrol loves corruption and things like that. His other two movies that we talked about very, very much deal with that. And this one's quite good. Once again, as the movies go on, each one becomes my favorite. This is my favorite so far for sure. Very, very interesting. And I recommend you guys check out The Color of Lies. I think it's super, super good. So this movie, Doesn't have a new 4K restoration like the other two that we've talked about before. It's just the 1080p transfer that was already around. Got the original French audio, brand new commentary track by the film critic that we've talked about before in the other two reviews, a new visual essay examining the ideas of art and legacy in Chabrol's The Color of Lies, What's Eating Claude Chabrol, a brand new appreciation by film critic David Calat, examining the ways in which Chabrol's films relate, reflect, and retract each other, and behind-the-scenes featurettes. So, got some more features on this one. I appreciate that. That Arrow just didn't like throw in a bonus disc at the end. They actually like put features on all these separate releases. It's kind of nice. The transfer, like I said, it's kind of on par with the other two. They don't look like amazing. They're not beautiful-looking films. You know, I would assume they're probably low-budget movies, so they're not going to like blow your mind away. But it looks okay. It looks what it is. It's a 1999 film, so you know you're not going to get the best out of that, but it looks good for what it is. So I recommend you guys check out The Color of Lies. It is quite interesting. All right, so that's the third film in this set, and finally coming up after this review, we have the final film in this set, The Swindle. So stay tuned for that. I'll do my review on that movie, and then we'll come back and I'll wrap up my thoughts on this box set. So thank you again, everybody, for watching and sticking through. I shall talk to you guys soon. See you in a bit. All right. Welcome back, everybody, for the final review in the Claude Chabrol Twisting the Knife box set. So sorry if I sound winded and shitty. I've been in the house with COVID for a week, so I've had a fun time. But I still wanted to come and finish up this box set for you guys. So the final film we'll be talking about in the Claude Chabrol box set is The Swindle. Now this movie is very, very different than the other three movies. While the other three movies were very small-scaled and revolved around, you know, relationships and things like that. While this movie does revolve around relationships, it's a much bigger scale kind of a movie for Claude Chabrol compared to the other three movies. And like I said before, I watch these movies unfortunately from newest to oldest, so this is the oldest film that he's done that's in this box set. But like I said, it's definitely a different film compared to the other three movies that we've talked about so far. So basically we follow Victor and Betty. They're these two small town crooks. Basically what they do is they go around to different conventions at hotels, and basically what they do is Betty, you know, seduces a victim, you know, usually a man that's there by himself, and she basically either gets them really drunk or drugs them and brings them back to their hotel room and robs them. And, you know, Victor's part of this whole plan and everything like that along the way. But they never take more than what they need. You know, they never totally rob them dry and leave them to, you know, hang out. They basically take enough to satisfy themselves, and then they, you know, they move on to the next victim. So they're really small-time petty thieves. They're not like huge, you know, big-time kind of people. So one day at this dentist convention, Betty gets hooked up with this guy who has a suitcase chained to his wrist. And inside the suitcase is 5 million Swiss francs. And it's basically Betty trying to, you know, seduce this guy to convince him enough that she's trustworthy to get the combination to the suitcase. And along the way, there's a thing with Victor, and it's kind of hard to explain without giving it away. But it's definitely a who could trust who kind of film. Is Victor trusting Betty to give him the money when she gets it? Is Betty trusting Victor not to screw her? It's just a huge, you know, who can you trust kind of film. I feel like we kind of see that in Chabrol's other three films that we've talked about before. It's all about who is trustworthy and who you could actually trust and who you can't screw. You know, in the first film that we talked about, it was the politicians screwing each other. In the second film, you know, it was the Nazis screwing. It's a huge thing about who's trying to screw over who. But this movie really does it hard with, you know, who do you trust? And as an audience, you don't really know who you trust until the end of the film, where, you know, it finally plays out and you find out that, you know, whatever happens, I'm not going to spoil it to you, but it's definitely a bigger scope kind of film. The other three movies, you know, it's all set on one island and things like that. But this movie, you know, It's all over the place. It's Switzerland. It's in hotels. It's grand. A lot bigger than all the other movies. And the cinematography of Switzerland is actually quite nice. So it's a very different kind of film. And Chabrol lets the actors play. You could tell that they have really great chemistry, and he just lets them play together and play off of each other. You could tell maybe some of the stuff is improvised, and it's just a really different kind of film. Is it my favorite out of the four? Probably not, but I feel like it's definitely a different kind of film at least, and it kind of tries to do a little bit something different. And it's a interesting neo-noir. It definitely plays out like a neo-noir as we get towards the end of the film. So if you guys like neo-noirs, then you're probably going to dig this. So brand new 4K restoration on this, original French audio track, and subtitles, of course. Got a brand new auto commentary track by some film historians, a brand new visual essay on the film, interview with Claude Chabrol's stepdaughter and his AD, and some other archival interviews with the actors in this movie. So the transfer, it's about the same as the other ones. It's not going to blow your mind or anything like that. I think I've said that enough at this point. But the transfers, they are what they are. And comes in the similar thin pack that the other films release. So what do I think about Claude Chabrol? Well, he's a very interesting guy. Like I said, I've never watched any of his movies. I heard about him quite a bit in film school, but I never really dug into any of his films. So this was quite a treat to watch, and I had a good time with them. They're slow burn French films. If you don't like slow burn French films, you're probably not going to like any of these movies, but if you're into that, then you're definitely going to like them, and I highly recommend you pick it up. I'm curious to see some of his older films. Like I said, Arrow has released a box set not a while ago, at the beginning of the year, that has 5 of his other movies, so I'd be curious to see some of his older stuff. And there's a really nice box set, like I said, from Arrow. We got all 4 films on separate discs in a nice thin case. And you got this really nice thick booklet from Arrow, a 100-page colored booklet. Talks about all the movies and things like that, and how they got made, and the actors, and everything like that. So really nice edition from Arrow, as always. I highly recommend you guys pick it up if it sounds interesting to you. So that is my review, my lengthy review of Twisting the Knife, the 4 films of Claude Chabrol. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, if I can get this back in the box. And as always, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. And I hope everybody's doing well, and I shall talk to you guys soon with some more reviews. I'll see you guys in a bit.